We've been talking about the idea that we were kind of shaped by recessions, but those were completely economic. This is completely different and has obviously a lot more of a impact on human interaction and the form of relationships, particularly at a young age. Those things happen at school. What do you think are going to be the learnings for kids 10 years down the line from this?
I think that there's a base question in here of making sure that kids feel safe. Schools for New York City kids, many of them that are homeless and have unstable homes, like that's where they get their laundry done. That's where they get their food. That's where they get their hug every single day. And so schools have shown up again and again to provide not just education, but all of this other social emotional support for kids. And without that there, right now, schools, I think, as a whole, are struggling with how do we provide either the academic accommodations or all the social emotional support to our kids without the structure of school. Also looking forward into the next few years, like teachers have really been the ones that have limited remote and virtual learning experiences based on their own comfort levels, based on their own knowledge. Right now, all that stuff is kind of getting thrown out the window. You have to try this. And so with teachers feeling more and more like comfortable with this, I think what we're going to see moving forward is that the concept of just being in school and not being in school is going to get blurred. Just like the concept for us being at work and not being at work has gotten blurred.
I, as a kid, was not particularly academically successful. I think arguably I've managed to be more successful in the real world. So I've always been interested in that potentially breakdown between what is academic success and what is in real world success. You're probably pointing to them, it accelerates the movement towards those things, and that blurring of the line also helps people recognize that there is perhaps learning progress and even things we could accredit to that progress that are not, strictly speaking, academia. Parents, particularly come up in the UK, who have the wanting to take them out and go for holidays outside of the school breaks because that's the cheapest time to do it, for example. And some of those people are like out trying to take them on trips where they are actually learning a lot about different cultures, about different ways the world works, and yet that is seen as the bad thing. It's the variety of learning that perhaps is accelerated by this kind of situation, but that's difficult as an education system to accredit and give marks to, isn't it?
I think it still was very much based on the concept of seat time. I'm sitting in my seat studying a certain topic for a certain amount of time, where we haven't really moved to. And there are areas of the country that are starting to, or I say are starting to, they've been trying to do this for the last 5 to 10 years, is around competency-based learning. So what are the core competencies that a student needs to be able to demonstrate? How the student learns it and then demonstrates their mastery in those competencies can be in a variety of different ways. Why are we saying that it has to be on one test in one way? And why are we saying that the amount of time it's going to take a kid to learn that competency needs to be the same? But really, competencies are like, it's a web of knowledge, and it seamlessly moves throughout different parts of our world. It's not like you learn math and then you learn English and then you learn science and then you learn social studies. And when you talked about like going on holiday, we think of that more as like a project, or it's a comprehensive unit. It's an experience that someone's going through that can help shape them in all different ways. I haven't seen the student voice show up. And you look at like other recoverable crises, students were the ones that got out and said, this is how we need to show up differently as students, as schools, and as support for our community. And I'm not seeing that yet happen across our students now. I'm sure it exists somewhere out there, but it's not rising to the national stage of students coming out and saying what they need right now.
Just changing things to being virtual doesn't feel like I've quite learned enough out of it. And I feel frustrated by that. And I can imagine if you're a student that's more profound because you're used to learning those things from those around you, and you haven't got that because no one knows. Arguably, is perhaps a time when those students are going to have to look within a bit more to figure out how to move forward out of this.
I think we're going to lose if we think that we have to go in one path for every kid. My company works very deliberately on student-centered learning and student-focused learning. Part of our core set of beliefs and core mantra is the student designing and leading in their own learning. an article that came out earlier this week. They did a quick survey, and 1/4 of students who said that they were going to be going to college now say that they're rethinking that decision. And that could be because of the recession. It could be because of other things. But I think that they're realizing, like, why am I going back to sitting in a classroom every single day? Like, what is that going to do to serve me?
When it came to like university, my course was a little bit peculiar in the fact that it was a very new course. I was the first year. The first thing that there was said to us when we were in this weird old room, by the end of this, in your third year, you're going to start your own company. And throughout this entire period, you're going to be working with external lecturers. I'm trying to not use expletives because this guy's just like, didn't care about the education system and the way it was set up today. The course didn't continue. And I think that's because this course was very left field for people. And the education system, whilst it was interested in what this looked like and how it could work, ultimately found it a difficult thing to bring under the wing of the traditional education of universities, even though this is a fairly creative university. I did work alongside external lecturers. This external lecturer that came in ran his own production company, TV production company. I started working with him. A few months in, he said, can you make me a website? And I'd been doing that in my spare time anyway. So I made him a website for free. And then at one point, he just said, this is really good. I'm going to pay you. And I'm going to pay you £2,000 right now. And it was such a massive moment. And this person made me think what I could do by myself was valuable enough to not just tell me he's going to pay me, but write me a check right now. He had been through his own experience and he knew how valuable that was to empower someone else to think that they can do it. And that's what I think comes with external lecturers. That's what comes with people who are out in the world who are doing stuff. And I think that you're right. If that is more standard, this is a time when we could try that out. I mean, there's a lot of people on Instagram doing like Miley in class, a classic FM DJ who's like a pianist and doing classes about playing an instrument. There's no reason to say that that couldn't become part of academia.
Are there creative, and I'll ask the question because I don't know, how are students able to be connected to just at least awareness and exploring really new areas? You didn't have time in your schedule to play the cello, but now maybe you can watch the Philharmonic in Berlin. You can watch someone who's your age playing the cello. You can then say, I'm interested in it. How do I then build that into my life?
One of the things that reminds me of his LinkedIn post a while ago. Somebody said, any ideas on how to make my kids more creative? And it was a really interesting question. First answer, let them be bored. It forces people to take ownership over their own creative exploration. And that's what I think you're talking about. And also what, as a platform and a technology we're about really is you take ownership over what you want to learn. You go and understand the context. It's about you. It's not about the forcing down. It's not about the editing. Somebody else is editing this story for you. You know, you're editing your own story at this point. So this is a way that it's perhaps forced upon kids, but they can take ownership over that. And there might be some great stories to be told from that happening.